Welcome back to the deep dive. If you've ever tried to read about spiritual awakening, well, you know the information can feel pretty overwhelming, right?
Oh, absolutely. It often sounds so mystical, maybe even unachievable for regular people.
Exactly. But today, we've synthesized some sources that offer something quite rare, actually. It feels almost like a practical, step-by-step guide for really advanced spiritual work.
Yeah, we're aiming to move past the sort of vague philosophy.
Dive right into the mechanics. You know, how do you actually separate the self? How do you break down those deep beliefs? And what happens after some kind of breakthrough? How do you keep it going?
What's really striking about this material is it gives you the map almost before you even really start the tough parts of the journey.
Yeah.
It lays out these stages.
Right.
Identifying that limited sense of self, this intense phase of like taking apart your concepts, realizing what awareness really is.
Yeah.
And then, the long road of bringing that into the real world.
It feels like a blueprint, moving from just understanding it intellectually to actually knowing it.
Exactly.
So our mission today is to track these 4 core stages. First, locating that limited small self inside us. Second, understanding this active process of dismantling concepts, the practice known as reducing daily for the Tao.
Right.
Third, getting a handle on this idea that pure awareness is emptiness. And finally, that really demanding practice of refining the heart in the world. So let's start right at the beginning, identifying the enemy might be too strong, but the obstacle.
Yeah, the obstacle.
Yeah.
And the sources give us this analogy that's just, it's hard to forget once you hear it. The small self, or Shao Wo, they define it as the nanny ant of the body shell. The nanny ant.
Yeah.
That image is brilliant. It immediately brings up this feeling of like well-meaning but controlling care, doesn't it?
Totally. She's protective, keeps the body safe, fed, the basics. But she's fundamentally small, operates out of fear, learned rules.
And she doesn't see reality straight on, right? No, exactly. She operates behind what the text called the perceptual interface. Think of it like a veil, a mian sha.
A veil, okay.
And that veil is created by constant input from the senses, the 6 Ds, they call them. Eye, ear, nose, tongue, body, and crucially, the mind.
The mind as a thief, too.
Right, because it adds all the definitions, labels, concepts you've ever absorbed from culture, family, school, everything. And this whole filter just obscures Xishang reality as it actually is.
Okay, so the nanny ant is just running this flawed program based on ideas she thinks are true, but they're really just protective screens. So what's the very first thing you have to do to start, pulling that apart?
The first practical step is separation. You have to deliberately raise your awareness, and then employ what they call the third perspective.
The third perspective, like watching yourself.
Exactly. You use it to observe the nanny ant's thoughts, her emotions, her reactive behaviors, almost like they belong to someone else entirely, a separate entity you're just watching.
Okay, now here's where it gets tough, I think, for listeners. When that nanny ant is screaming, you're in traffic, you're stressed at work, terrified about something, how do you practically keep that distance, that non-judgmental part? Do you just grit your teeth and push the feeling down?
No, absolutely not suppression. That's key. The core instruction is critical. Xingguan Shabu Panduan. Only observe. Do not judge.
Only observe.
If you judge it, this anger is bad, I shouldn't feel this, you get tangled up again. You're back in the nanny ant's game.
So the power isn't in stopping it, but just in the watching.
Yes. The power comes from the observation itself. They use that analogy of the misbehaving student, remember?
Oh, yeah, the kid causing chaos.
Right, total chaos. But the second they sense the teacher's eye looking through the crack in the door, they freeze. They instantly self-correct.
Okay. So just the knowledge of being watched makes the system, the nanny ant, sort of pause. Trigger some introspection. Stops the automatic reaction.
It stops it right in its tracks. It does. And once you get the hang of that separation, and you start seeing how limited the nanny ant's programming really is, then you move into the second stage, which is tougher.
Okay.
Actively dismantling her definitions. This is what they mean by reducing daily for the Tao.
Reduction. That sounds intense. What exactly are we reducing? Is this just philosophical navel gazing, or are we actually breaking specific things down?
Oh, it's extremely targeted. Reduction means systematically breaking down every single concept and definition that makes up your perceived reality, your identity.
Can you give an example?
Sure. Let's say you have this deep belief, I'm a failure because I lost my job. That whole structure, the I, the failure, the link to the job, that's a concept to be scrutinized, loosened, reduced.
Okay.
Or My happiness depends entirely on this person loving me. That belief has to be reduced. You chip away at the belief in permanence, the belief that categories are real, the belief that any label actually is you.
But this brings up a huge question, one the sources mention. If I start dismantling all my concepts, definitions, how do I avoid just, losing judgment completely? Shikpan.
Right.
How do I stop being attached but still function? Like if I let go of the concept hot stove, won't I just burn myself?
That's the absolute crux of this advanced practice. And the sources are clear. You're not losing function. You're refining the source of the function.
Okay.
The necessary assessment, this stove is hot, don't touch it, that judgment can still happen. But the conscious observation, that third perspective, prevents the attachment, the zizwo, from forming around the judgment.
Okay. So the nanny ant might still yell, danger, which is, useful information.
Right, that's third judgment.
But the observed self, the awareness, kind of says, okay, I see the danger, but I'll choose a skillful action without freaking out or building a whole story around this stove.
Precisely. The observation forces the small self, the nanny ant, to pick a different path, one that isn't just pure reaction. And when this whole reduction process hits a critical point, when those conceptual bindings finally get loose enough, that's when the breakthrough happens.
The bottom of the bucket drops out. Tang ding tishnuo.
That's it. That's kegu, enlightenment.
Wow, such a dramatic image. But if the bucket bottom drops out, what? What did we actually find underneath? What is that non-judging observer made of?
And this leads us straight to maybe the most profound statement in these sources. The awareness. That third perspective you were using all along.
Yeah.
It is emptiness.
Kumshing. Awareness is emptiness. Okay, help me understand the mechanics there. If emptiness isn't just nothingness, a void, what does it do according to these texts?
Emptiness, as the fundamental nature of awareness, seems to have two main functions. It creates and it observes.
Creates and observes.
But, and this is crucial, it doesn't judge or categorize what it creates or observes. It's pure potential, pure observation, which explains why the third perspective had to be non-judgmental, right?
Because it was emptiness doing the observing all along.
You got it.
Yeah.
Emptiness operating the awareness function.
And this links back to that earlier work they mentioned, the pre-enlightenment stuff about time and the present moment. Dam Xia. Why is training in flow states in the present so important for realizing this emptiness thing?
Because it primes the mind. It prepares you to even consider the radical idea that time is illusory. Shijian Shishihuande.
Illusory? How so?
Well, the source material suggests that, in a way, everything has already happened. And our consciousness is constantly jumping between different possibilities, different timelines, based on the frequency we're vibrating at. Whoa. Focusing on flow states, on the present moment. That helps align your frequency to perceive reality more directly.
That really shifts the whole picture. They make that super paradoxical statement, the now is not the present moment. The now is observed by the present moment. Okay. If the now isn't the present moment we experience, what is it? And how can we experience something that's observed by the present? That sounds impossible.
It does sound tricky. Think of the present moment as the flashlight beam, the point of conscious attention. The now is more like the darkness, the space, the emptiness that the beam illuminates. It's the underlying ground.
The ground, okay.
So the practice involves experiencing the world without constantly filtering it through memory, which is past, or expectation, which is future, just being purely receptive. And this also connects to that idea of inherent self-sufficiency, bianzi juzu.
Self-sufficiency, the idea that you're already whole, complete.
Exactly. The training involves learning to generate feelings, joy, peace, contentment from within. They have to be self-generated, not dependent on some external trigger.
Like you don't need the promotion or the perfect meal or someone's approval to feel whole.
Right. You realize you already are. That's bizijuzu.
Okay, so let's say the realization happens, the bucket drops. The practitioner understands emptiness, the illusion of time, the self-sufficiency, but that's not the end, is it? Seems like it's just the starting line for the really hard part.
Oh, absolutely. Now you enter what they call Wuho Kyushi post-enlightenment practice. And this phase demands enormous discipline.
Why? Isn't the work done?
Well, think of the analogy they use. Before the breakthrough, it's like the dog walks the person.
Meaning the reactive small self, the nanny ant, is dragging you around?
Exactly. After the breakthrough, it flips. The person walks the dog. Awareness usually is the leash. You are finally in control. But the dog still needs training.
So what are the main jobs during this long phase? They call it preservation, bring her in.
Yeah, there are basically 3 ongoing tasks you have to juggle. 1, constantly maintaining that state of awareness. 2, systematically eliminating residual habits, shushiki.
Residual habits?
Like the ingrained reactions, the automatic patterns. And 3, breaking the final, most subtle conceptual barriers, puzzle.
Okay, but why is this still necessary? The sources say something interesting here. Doubt, gone after true enlightenment, but greed, anger, delusion, and arrogance, Tanshin Chi-man, are still there.
Yes. Wait, hang on. If the bucket bottom dropped out, why are greed and anger still hanging around? Didn't realizing emptiness get rid of that stuff. It gets rid of the root ignorance that caused those vices. But it doesn't instantly erase the deeply wired behavioral patterns, the energetic habits, the key that built up over maybe decades.
Okay, so you know the truth now, but your body, your nervous system, your subconscious, they still kind of default to the old nanny aunt program when you get squeezed?
Precisely. Getting rid of those habitual reactions takes time. It takes dedicated practice in the world.
Which brings us perfectly to that final application phase, refining the heart in the world, Shi Jin Lian Chen. So this isn't about locking yourself away in a cave.
No way. It's about confronting life head on. The world becomes your practice ground, your whetstone.
And this is where they give us that incredibly practical, almost ruthlessly pragmatic tool for dealing with conflict. The 4 phrases of purifying the heart. Siju King Zhen Yan.
Razor sharp, aren't they?
Yeah. Okay, let's run a scenario. Say, my colleague totally steals my idea, presents it as their own to the boss. The nanny aunt inside is screaming, wants revenge, wants to point fingers, feels that hot burn of anger and injustice. How does the practitioner use these 4 phrases right then, in that moment of intense feeling?
Okay. The second that anger flares up, the practitioner needs to immediately switch on that third perspective observation and then apply phrases like a spiritual muzzle on the nanny aunt.
All right, phrase 1.
Phrase 1 focuses outward. Mind your own business. Guaning Pishi. It sounds harsh, but it means my colleague is acting according to their internal program, their limitations, their source code. What they do is ultimately their business, stemming from their stuff, not mine.
Okay, that creates some distance right away. What's phrase 2?
Phrase 2 turns the focus inward. What does this have to do with me? Guan Wing Pishi. This is the radical bit. Is my inherent worth, my completeness, my Binziju Zhu actually diminished because someone stole an idea, an external temporary event? The answer from that place of awareness has to be no.
Wow. Okay. So, distance created, then question the actual impact on my core self. What are the last 2? They sound like de-escalation.
They really are. They're powerful state changers. Third phrase. So what? Now you Xinyan. This directly confronts the perceived catastrophe. It pulls the rug out from under the nanny aunt's drama, her insistence that this must ruin everything.
Right, undermines the importance she signs it. And the final one.
However, it turns out it's fine. Xin Mijohel.
Acceptance. That accepts reality as it is without needing the outcome to match my nanny aunt's preferences. It totally reframes it. It's not a personal attack anymore.
Exactly. It becomes an opportunity to practice, to upgrade your own inner programming. You see the other person just executing their flawed code.
And since I'm the one working on my code, I don't need to run the nanny aunt's old reactive defensive program back at them.
You just observe and you choose awareness over reaction. It leads into that final analogy they gave, which sums it all up so well.
Self-driving car.
Yeah. The whole spiritual journey is like waking up the person who's been asleep in the passenger seat of a self-driving car.
Letting the nanny aunt drive.
Right. Then you turn off the autonomous program, and you make the person, the awareness, actually take the wheel and drive themselves. Consciously.
Okay. So we've covered this incredibly structured, pretty demanding path, separating from the nanny aunt, this ruthless reduction of concepts, the core realization of emptiness, and then the lifelong job of worldly refinement. It really is a roadmap, isn't it? For anyone serious about true integration.
It absolutely is. And for those of you listening who want to take this knowledge and really deepen your own practice, the source material had 2 very specific, quite powerful recommendations for where to go next.
Okay, what's the first one?
They strongly recommend studying the Song Dynasty's 10 ox herding pictures.
The ox herding pictures. I've seen those. They're beautiful, but how do they fit?
They're more than just art. They're a visual map, a step-by-step depiction of the entire spiritual path, from the initial searching, finding the ox of true nature, taming it, riding it home, and then this is crucial, returning to the marketplace, back to the world, to live authentically. It mirrors the stages we discussed.
Fascinating. Okay. And the second recommendation. It involves a text many people might know, but maybe not understand its role in this specific context.
That's right, the Heart Sutra, the Jinjing.
The Heart Sutra. Okay. What's the specific instruction there?
This was maybe the most provocative point in the whole dialogue. They advise not just reading it, but memorizing the Heart Sutra and constantly meditating on its deep meaning.
Why? Just as general wisdom.
Not just general wisdom. They state quite directly that at the precise, non-intellectual moment of enlightenment, when the bucket bottom drops out, you need to have intellectually aligned with the meaning of the Heart Sutra to successfully certify the realization.
Wait, the realization itself isn't enough. You need to, consciously stamp it with the sutra's concepts.
That's what the sources imply.
Yeah.
It suggests it's this incredibly high stakes, maybe fleeting moment. And your intellectual and spiritual preparation, specifically understanding the sutra's view of emptiness, determines if you pass the test.
So you could have the breakthrough experience, but if you don't have that framework ready, you might not correctly recognize it or lock it in. You could miss the certification.
You could miss that crucial moment entirely, yes. It suggests that even this profoundly non-conceptual breakthrough requires some vital preparatory conceptual knowledge to anchor it. So that's the thought we want to leave you with today. How does knowing the answer ahead of time through something like the Heart Sutra ensure you correctly recognize the moment the question itself disappears?